Hi Dave, how's the leg?
Getting better, thanks. How are you?
Oh, fine, fine. Millions of things to do as usual. What's that you're working on?
While I'm on light duties, the boss has asked me to do something for him.
Oh yes, anything interesting?
Well, you'll like this. He wants me to put together a working at height task brief.
Really? Need any help with that?
That would be brilliant.
Let's start with the beginning. What's the item of work?
I've got to carry out some brickwork repairs on that retainer wall at the far end of the site.
Fair enough. Are you aware of the hierarchy of controls for assessing the risks and hazards associated with the job?
I've heard of it, but I could do with a refresher. Do you mind?
No, not at all. Let's take it step by step. There are 5 levels you need to remember, but let's see if we can work them out logically so that it makes sense to you, okay?
Okay, whatever you say.
Right, think about this. Let's suppose you've got something you know is really dangerous that you're afraid is going to do damage to people. What would you like to see happen with the dangerous thing?
Well, if I had my choice, I'd rather the dangerous thing wasn't there at all.
That's actually the right answer. The first thing everyone wants is to eliminate the danger, or for our purposes, the hazard. It could be chemicals, it could be working at height, it could be anything. But if you can dispose of the danger, then you've done everyone a favour and all will be well.
So, how would I get rid of the risks of working at height?
Well, for instance, could the work be done at ground level rather than up in the air?
I see. Well, in this case, I can't very well bring the wall down to ground level to do what needs to be done, so we'll have to forget about elimination as our first option.
Okay, so option 2. If we cannot eliminate or remove the risk, we have to consider if there's any other way to do the job, to substitute the hazard with a less risky way of doing something. So let me ask you, how were you planning to access the area that you're going to work on?
It's a 20-minute job, so I thought I'd use a ladder.
Okay, but what would be safer than the ladder that we have on site?
The Mute?
Exactly. You could use a cherry picker, which will be just as quick, if not quicker, than the ladder, and will obviously be more secure and safe for you, right?
Right. So that's substitution. What if we didn't have a Mute?
Well, that brings us to the third preferred option, which is called engineering controls.
Engineering controls. That sounds a bit technical. Is it?
No, not really. Engineering controls are a mechanical means to prevent workers from falling when they're working at height. So we're really talking quite low tech here. Things like guardrails, scaffolding, or safety harnesses. Things which are engineered to build in extra safety.
Like seatbelts?
Yes, that's a good example of an engineered solution. It's a safety device to help mitigate the risk. It won't stop your car from crashing, but you'll be safer having it in place.
You said there were 5 levels? That's 3. What comes after engineering controls?
That's where people like you and I come in.
How do you mean?
We can build in administrative rules and ensure safety. Things like performing a formal risk assessment, like we're doing now. Training and supervision are other examples of administrative controls. In other words, administrative controls are the things which govern safety on site.
Am I right in thinking that PPE is part of the admin controls?
Actually, PPE is the final part of the hierarchy of controls. It's things like safety nets, inertia harnesses, crash mats, things like that.
How is that different from the engineered controls we talked about before?
Well, PPE is personal protective equipment. It prevents injury to the person rather than preventing the fall itself. Do you see?
Got it. So, first it's elimination, then substitution, then engineering controls, admin controls, and finally PPE. You've really helped me make sense of that.
I do what I can. Anything else?
I'm not sure. Can you think of anything?
Only the standard what if it all goes wrong strategy we talked about yesterday.
Ah, the rescue plan.
Exactly. You always want a contingency plan in case anything goes wrong. And remember, we can't rely on a 999 strategy. So what details do you think should go into a rescue plan? What needs to be written down?
Well, I know that the standard emergency plan covers things like bandages and medic stuff, so I don't think I need to write that all down again, do I?
No, you don't. You need to think about the what and the how with regards to rescuing somebody who's working at height and has fallen.
Okay, well, thinking about the what makes me think about equipment and how that equipment will be used. Is that the sort of thing you had in mind?
Yes, that's a good first step. You need to detail the safety equipment being used as well as the rescue equipment.
So, safety equipment would be things like the safety harness to prevent the injury, but the rescue equipment could be a mute.
Exactly. So that takes care of listing the what. What about the how?
I'm thinking that I'd want to know how to use the equipment we just listed to rescue the person, right?
Right, but you also need to think about everyone's safety, not just the chap who's fallen, but about the people rescuing him. Do you see?
Yeah, I think so. I know that lifeguards are encouraged not to jump in the pool to save a drowning person, because a drowning person will pull them under the water to save themselves. It's a human reflex. So they're taught to use life rings and poles to do the rescuing, rather than put themselves in danger.
I didn't know that.
So, with that in mind, I'll need to make sure that anyone engaged with the rescue plan is properly trained and prepared for all eventualities.
Excellent plan. And that, my friend, is how you do your hierarchy of controls, your rescue plan, and your site-specific risk assessment. Job done.
That wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be.
You still need to work out the details, but you've got the skeleton view there. If you need any more help, let me know.
Thanks.